So for anyone out there who uses American Express cards like the Amex Platinum or the Amex Gold, it's pretty easy to earn points, right? You just get a few sign-up bonuses and you put some spending on these cards, and then before you know it, you've saved up a bunch of points. But even though earning Amex points is the easy part, redeeming them is actually what's hard here, and the truth is that redeeming credit card points is sort of intentionally designed to be confusing because companies like American Express give you a lot of options. However, some of these options actually devalue points while others boost the value. So in this video, I want to give you guys a full guide on how to redeem Amex points the right way with step-by-step examples of not only the best options like redeeming for travel with transfer partners, but also the worst options you want to avoid, like redeeming for cash back in the form of a statement credit, which is where we're going to start this video. Now, if we jump over to my American Express account, at the top, we want to click on where it says rewards and benefits. And then once we're on that page there, we can click on where it says earn and redeem, where we're going to basically see all these different choices here that Amex gives us for how we can redeem our points. And the first option there is to use points for a statement credit. So let's go over there. Okay, now on this page, they actually tell us the value of our points if we want to redeem for a credit. So in the upper right corner, we can see that it says 10,000 points equals $60. You can enter in any amount below that to see the conversion for yourself. But if we just do some basic math here, we can calculate what we call the cent per point value, which is a pretty important concept to remember. And cent per point is just a number that we can use to basically compare this option right here to all the other options throughout the rest of this video on sort of an apples to apples basis. So in their example of redeeming 10,000 Amex points to get $60 as a credit, we would just take $60 and then divide that by 10,000 to get 0.006. And then we can multiply that by 100 to get 0.6 cents per point. And that's gonna be the fixed rate when redeeming any amount of Amex points for a statement credit, which honestly is really bad considering that there's some other really easy ways to get at least 1 cent per point or even 2 to 3 cents per point or more. So if you're watching this and you wanna redeem your Amex points for basically cash back as a credit, then I highly recommend not doing that at all because that is gonna be one of the ways that I always see people devaluing their points. Now at the top of the screen under the earn and redeem tab again here, we have the second option, which is going to be to cover your card charges. And with this here, American Express just gives you the option to sort of erase specific charges on your statement, but really that's not going to be any different here than the statement credit option that we just talked about. So if we look at a recent statement charge for $102.47 on my Amex Gold card for a recent trip to Giant, which is a grocery store where I live, I could erase that for 17,078 points. But if we do that calculation for cent per point value, that works out to be the exact same 0.6 cents per point, which again, we definitely want to avoid. Another way that I like to explain this to beginners is that I look at that 17,078 points for this transaction, and I know that with some other options out there, I can easily get at least 1 cent per point in value at a minimum, and 17,078 points at a value of 1 cent per point would be about $170. So I like to ask myself, is it a good idea to redeem $170 worth of points to erase a $102 charge? And for most people, they would say, of course not, because that's almost like saying, would you pay $170 for $102 worth of groceries? So you would pretty much never want to do that. Now, hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, then I promise it's going to start to get easier to understand as we start to see more and more examples of the best ways to redeem points later on in this video. But before we get to that here, next, let's quickly talk about the Go Shopping tab, which is probably going to be appealing to a lot of people because they might think they could just buy stuff that feels like it's sort of free by using points. But in reality, these are still just really terrible ways to redeem. So when you click on the Go Shopping tab, you're going to see this homepage here where you could just search for something specific, or you can go ahead and just search by category if you want to shop around for different stuff. So let's search in the sports and games category for fun here. And let's say that I want to buy a new Callaway Paradigm driver because of course buying a $650 driver is obviously going to help with my golf game. But we could see that instead of paying $650, I could redeem 130,000 points instead, which to some people might sound better. However, that is not better at all because 130,000 points could be worth at least $1,300 at a value of 1 cent per point with other redemption options. But instead of getting at least $1,300, we would just be settling here for only $650 in value for the same amount of points. For the actual cent per point number, we would just take $650 and divide that by 130,000 points to get 0.005, and then we multiply by 100 to get a value of 0.5 cents per point, which is actually even lower than 0.6 cents per point from the previous options of redeeming for a statement credit. So if you take away anything from this video at all, I want you to remember this. You need to factor in opportunity cost when redeeming your credit card points. Or in other words, with this example, don't settle for $650 in value when you could have at least $1,300 in value or potentially a lot more. Now, in addition to shopping through your American Express account, you also have the option to actually pay with points at checkout through PayPal and on a few other popular websites like Amazon. And many of you have probably seen this before when you go to buy something online and then you're given the option to use points to pay at checkout. So for example, if I wanted to buy the subscribe t-shirt from Amazon to remind you guys to go ahead and subscribe down below, that's gonna cost me $17.99. Or if I had an Amex card that I linked to my Amazon account, then you can see that it gives me the option to use American Express membership rewards points. And for this purchase, it tells me it's gonna cost 2,570 points. And if we do the math there, that works out to be 0.7 cents per point, which is still just too low and another option that we wanna avoid because it devalues our points. And as a general guide here that I like to use, anything below 1 cent per point is bad and devalues points. Anything at 1 cent per point is just okay. But then anything that's at least 2 to 3 cents per point or even more is generally where we wanna aim to redeem. By the way, if we can get this video here up to 3,000 likes, then I'll actually go ahead and buy that subscribe t-shirt and wear it in my next What's in My Wallet update video just for fun. So again, go ahead, like and subscribe if you haven't already because it is completely free. Now next here, we've got the option to redeem for gift cards within our Amex account. And if we click on that right there, we're gonna see sort of a gift card marketplace where we have a ton of options. And for gift cards, we're usually gonna be able to get around anywhere from 0.5 cents per point up to around 1 cent per point, depending on what kind of gift cards we choose. So if we just click on a generic American Express gift card that's basically a cash equivalent that you can use anywhere Amex is accepted, it says that we can redeem 5,000 points for a $25 gift card, which works out to be 0.5 cents per point in value, meaning that we wanna actually avoid redeeming for a gift card like this. But then if we click on a gift card to Home Depot, we can see that a $25 gift card costs only half that amount at 2,500 points. So that means that with our calculation, we can see this is equal to a redemption value of 1 cent per point, which again is just okay. So yeah, the value of redeeming for gift cards can vary, but in general, I still would say this is not the best use of your points. Now, if you have a special version of the Amex Platinum card, like the Charles Schwab Amex Platinum, then you're gonna have a bonus option of redeeming your Amex points over into a Schwab brokerage account at a fixed value of 1.1 cents per point. So that's gonna be a little bit better as a redemption option compared to the other things we've talked about so far. And there's some other versions of the Platinum card as well, like the Morgan Stanley Platinum that gives you the ability to redeem at 1 cent per point into a Morgan Stanley investment account. So those are kind of nice because you can just cash out of your brokerage account after redeeming your points, or you can even invest those points and basically grow the value of them over time. Now, personally, I think it's best to just leave your investing strategy and your credit card strategy separate. And that's because investing is really just a long-term game that's meant to play out over decades, while credit card points have the most power in the short term when they're really just redeemed with the best redemption options. And that is going to lead us into the most important part of this video, which is going to be redeeming Amex points for travel. Now, when it comes to redeeming Amex points for travel, we basically have two options. So option one is that we can redeem for travel inside the Amex portal, which is just okay. And option two is that we can redeem by transferring points out to different hotel and airline partners, which is the better option here by far with more upside value. So next I'm going to show you guys some examples of how redeeming for travel works to make it a little bit easier to understand. But I want you to keep these 5 tips in mind as we go through these examples here. First, again, transferring points is usually better than the Amex portal. So typically most hotels in the Amex portal can be booked at 0.7 cents per point in value, with some getting up to 1 cent per point. And then most flights are going to get 1 cent per point in the portal as well. But transferring points is usually going to be able to get you at least between 2 to 3 cents per point or even more. Tip number 2 is do not transfer until you find award availability. And that's because once you transfer points out of your Amex account, you can't transfer them back. So it's kind of like a one-way street. Third, take advantage of transfer bonuses when you can, because throughout the year, you're going to see American Express run these different promotions where maybe you can get at least a 20% or a 30% bonus when transferring points. So basically, instead of transferring 10,000 Amex points into 10,000 British Airways Avios, you might be able to transfer those same 10,000 Amex points and get 13,000 Avios instead. Tip number 4 is to spend your points and don't save forever. So just make sure you're redeeming points for travel in the near future instead of saving for a trip 10 plus years from now, because first of all, nothing in life is guaranteed. And second of all, credit card companies and airline and hotel programs are always devaluing points, adjusting award charts, and changing the rules. So save your points in the short term, but make sure you use them and don't get analysis paralysis. And then tip tip number 5 is that value is subjective, meaning that everyone out there is going to have different preferences for how they want to redeem their points. So maybe you want to save some money on economy flights, maybe you want to travel more, or maybe you want to travel better in first class. The important thing is just to make sure that you're not redeeming points the wrong way, but after that, just redeeming points for what gives you value personally is the whole point of this game. Okay, now with all that said, for this first example, let's look at booking a hotel stay at the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay Resort, which I think just looks really, really cool, and it's on the California coast. This is going to be more of a higher end Marriott property where we can see that it's normally going to cost $5,774 for a 5-night stay in August. And if we look over in the Amex portal, we can see that we can book this hotel for around 554,000 points plus $300 in property fees. So that's pretty expensive for both the cash price and the points price inside the portal. Now, when there's fees that we have to account for, we need to adjust our cent per point calculation. So we're going to take the cash price of $5,774 minus the fees when booking with points of $300. And then we're going to just divide that all by the points required to book here, which was a little over 554,000. And that gives us around 0.99 cents per point. The reason we want to do the cash price minus the fees from booking with points is just because we're going to have to pay at least some cash no matter what here. So the difference between those numbers is just going to be the amount of cash that we're actually saving when we're comparing these options. So that's what we want to have as the top part of our equation. However, this is not the best option here because Marriott is also a transfer partner with Amex. So if we do an award search over on the Marriott website, we can see that the points price is lower at 400,000 points plus 355 in taxes and fees. And that's partially thanks to the fact that when you book 5 nights with points through Marriott, you're going to get the 5th night free as a Bonvoy member. So using the same cash price of $5,774 as a reference point minus the 355 in fees divided by 400,000 points that we could transfer over to Marriott from 400,000 Amex points, that gives us a cent per point value of 1.35 cents per point, which is decent. But that's still pretty expensive, so the better option here might be if we managed to book this when there was a 30% transfer bonus going on from Amex over to Marriott for about a month last year. So with that bonus, we would only have to transfer over 308,000 Amex points to get at least the same 400,000 Marriott points. So doing the math with 308,000 points, that would have worked out to be a redemption value of around 1.76 cents per point. Now, obviously, that's still a lot of points to redeem for just a hotel stay, so this might not be a good idea for people who are working with a limited number of Amex points they've saved up, but I just wanted to show you guys the difference between booking in the portal versus transferring points here. So the portal price was 554,000 points, whereas the transfer price was as low as 308,000 points if we're able to take advantage of a transfer bonus, and that's going to be some pretty significant savings. Now, to transfer points from Amex to Marriott or any other program, all you got to do is just go head over to the rewards and benefits page inside of your Amex account, then go over to earn and redeem, and then go to the bottom of that list where it says transfer points. And that's going to bring you over to a page where you can see a list of all these different transfer partners along with what transfer bonuses might be going on at the moment. Then all you got to do is just enter your account number with whatever transfer partner you want to link to your Amex account, enter in the number of points you want to transfer in increments of 1,000 points, and then transfer over those points. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but again, do not transfer over any points until you search for and then confirm award availability first. Now, I also wanted to mention that with that last example of the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay, that was a part of the Fine Hotels and Resorts collection, which I have access to with my Amex Platinum card. So because this hotel was a part of that collection, that's why the Amex portal was giving me a value of around 1 cent per point. If we actually search for other hotels, so for example, if I search in my home city of Philadelphia and we see the standard Marriott that's going for $206 per night or 29,486 Amex points, the math there works out to be a value of around 0.7 cents per point, which is going to be standard for booking most other hotels with points in the Amex travel portal. So overall, I'm going to say that's not really a good use of points to book hotels through Amex. For booking flights, let's say that I want to go ahead and fly from Philadelphia to London in business class in late September on British Airways with their Club World suites. And for this, I want to start by actually finding award availability first before we compare the different options for booking this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to a website that I've really enjoyed using a lot lately called Seats.aero. Now, I have a premium subscription to Seats.aero, which costs $9.99 per month, that I definitely think is worth it because I can basically just search for up to a year of award availability with a bunch of filters. So I'm going to have a link down below to Seats.aero if anyone wants to go ahead and check that out. But on this page, I'm going to click on search, and then let's say that I want to fly from Philadelphia to London Heathrow in late August. So I could just go ahead and enter in those airports and a departure date, and then I checked off this box here to search for plus or minus 7 days because because another good tip here is that it really does help to be flexible when booking award tickets with points and miles. So after all that is filled out, then I'll go ahead and click on search. This brings up a lot of options. So I'm going to click on where it says business. And what that's going to do is it's going to sort by these green boxes first, which shows award availability for direct flights. And I'm going to look at this one here where it says American Airlines for 57,500 miles. So I'll click on the more info icon to the right, and then I can actually click over to view this on the American Airlines website. Now this is going to be a British Airways flight that I'm seeing here on American because both British and American are part of One World Alliance. But we can see that it shows the same flight for 57,500 miles plus $732 in fees because most award seats in and out of London have really high fees. But we actually can't transfer Amex points directly to American Airlines to book this. So I'm going to search for this flight over on the British Airways website next because BA is a transfer partner with Amex. And I made this transfer partner guide here that I like to use to remember where I can transfer my Amex points and what airlines are within the same alliances. So I'll go ahead and leave a link down below for this if you want to download that for free as well. Now over here on British Airways, the same flight costs 90,000 avios plus $350 in fees, some more in points but less in fees than American. And while I'm over here on the BA website, I also went ahead and checked the cash price of this flight and found out that it's going for $3,288. So when we do the cent per point calculation, we would take $3,288 minus the $350 in fees and then divided by 90,000 Amex points that we could transfer over to 90,000 British Airways avios. And that's going to give us 3.26 cents per point, which is actually pretty good. Now, the cent per point number is not the only thing to consider here because that same flight could potentially be cheaper if I was booking a round trip flight, or it could even be cheaper if I was flying out of another busier airport like JFK. But for this example, I wanted to show exactly what I would do here because I live much closer to Philadelphia International and the points price is the exact same for here or JFK. Now again, if there's ever any transfer bonuses going on with Amex and British Airways, then I could potentially transfer less than 90,000 points over to BA for this flight. But assuming there's no transfer bonuses going on at the moment, there's actually another One World Alliance member on my transfer partner guide that I could book with for a better deal here, and that is going to be Cathay Pacific. So over on Cathay's website, I can just enter in the same exact search information and find the same exact flight for 63,000 miles plus around $237 in fees after the price is converted into US dollars. So the cent per point number here with this calculation is going to work out to be around 4.84 cents per point, which is a better deal than the British Airways option we just looked at. So I would just go over to my Amex account, enter in my Cathay Pacific account number to link things, and then transfer over 63,000 Amex points to book the seat on the British Airways flight. Now, if we want to compare this deal to what we'd pay within the Amex travel portal, we can see that if we search for the same flight from Philly to London, we could redeem that for a little over 328,000 Amex points, which is going to value this redemption at around 1 cent per point. And typically that's what you're going to find whenever you want to book a flight inside the Amex portal. So I would much rather pay 63,000 Amex points transferred over to Cathay Pacific plus some fees instead, because that's going to be a huge difference. Now, if I want to keep playing around with flying to Europe in the fall with Seats.Aero, I can maybe just set the origin to USA so that it's going to search for all major US airports. Then I'll put in, let's say, Frankfurt, Germany, and then search for plus or minus 7 days. And here I can see that there's something direct from JFK for 60,000 points with Air Canada Aeroplan. So I can click through to that from here to see this deal over on their website. And that's going to show me that award seat for 60,000 Aeroplan points plus around $57 US after that's converted. This is actually going to be a Singapore Airlines flight because both Singapore and Air Canada are a part of Star Alliance. So if we search for the cash price over on Singapore Airlines website, that's going to be around $1,908 if we paid in cash. So calculating the value of this redemption, that's going to be around 3.08 cents per point, which is pretty good. And we could actually compare that to the price and miles from the Singapore Airlines KrisFlyer program directly because they're also an Amex transfer partner according to my guide. But the price through them is going to be 81,000 miles plus $5.60 in fees. And that's going to be a redemption of around 2.35 cents per point. So the Air Canada option is still the better option. Now, just for fun, we're going to compare the price inside of the Amex portal. So that would cost around 188,000 Amex points through that portal directly. So transferring only 60,000 Amex points is by far the best deal here for booking this. And maybe you can even get lucky with a transfer bonus, like I said before, where you'd have to transfer even less points over to Air Canada. Now, there's just an infinite number of examples that I could walk through of redeeming points for travel, but this video is already getting kind of long. So if you want to see more examples of redeeming for business class flights with points and miles, then make sure to go ahead and check out this video over here next. Or you can go ahead and watch some economy examples in this video over here if you want to use your points to fly more US domestic flights. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.